A very warm welcome to StudyIQ, my dear friends. I am Prashant Mavani. I hope you all are doing good. Today is 16th July 2020. I would like to start today's discussion with this quote by Warren Buffett. I want you guys to read between the lines here. I always knew I was going to be rich. He is saying this thing, he used to believe. He's saying this thing now, but he used to believe before he became rich that I always knew I was going to be rich. What is this? This is his belief system. This is his identity. He created his own identity. And once you create your identity, for example, if you say that I am good with maths, I'm good with reading, I'm good with writing. Once you set this ID, then this ID will give you energy. If you say that I cannot wake up early, then you are creating your ID that I'm a person who is not an early riser. Then no alarm can wake you up in the morning. But if you say that I am an early riser, right? If you change your identity, and for that once you change your belief system, this belief system will give you energy. This energy you can utilize for taking appropriate action. For example, if you want to crack any examination, then you have to study. For that, you have to create this belief system that you will become one day. A day will come when you will become IAS or bank officer or whatever it is. This will give you positive energy to take action, and this action will deliver a result. Simple as that. This is how it works. With this, dear friends, StudyIQ team has designed a smart course. Now, this smart course is for Civil Services Examination. It covers pre as well as mains examination, and to find out more about it, download our mobile application. Dear friends, to download the PDF of today's lecture, check out my Telegram channel. You can follow me on Facebook. Please make sure that you share this lecture with other students. Hit the like button if you have learned something from today's discussion, and please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you have subscribed, then do hit the notification bell as well. If you have done both these things, then can I request you guys to ask 3 more individuals to subscribe our YouTube channel, that is StudyIQ. On our table, we have some interesting articles from various different sources, but sources are secondary, topics are primary. That means first priority should be topics, isn't it? And topics are, a given topic is important based on your syllabus. Huawei. This one is about UK and China's relationship. Then we have trouble in Chabahar. This one is from Pioneer. Yesterday as well we were talking about it, but I have some additional information for you guys here, so this is going to be an add-on. Then we have China's post-COVID aggression and how it is reshaping Asia. India should believe in the EU. I have added some news items as well here. We were talking about this thing as well yesterday, and today we have some add-ons. UGC needs to revisit its guidelines on final year examinations immediately, has been said by what's his name, Minister Deputy Manish Sisodia. Right, he is Deputy Chief Minister of Delhi as well as Education Minister of Delhi. A national curriculum framework for police education and training is needed. Very interesting article, and then we are going to go through some news items. So let's quickly crack on with this one. Now, UK's Prime Minister Boris Johnson has decided that Huawei is going to be out of UK completely by 2027. He has ordered this very strictly, that telecom companies of British telecom companies will not be allowed to buy new gear by from 2021. You cannot buy any hardware or anything from Huawei. That is Huawei. This company, it's very difficult to pronounce this company's name, right? I'm going to call it H, right? Okay. So it's not going to, means you are not allowed to buy things from this company after 2021. By 2027, whatever gear you have from this Huawei company, it's 5G gear, you need to get rid of all this gear. The reason is China's Trojan horse strategy. You know the whole story, right? I'm sure you know how it. This story. There was a sort of a lesson in a chapter in our when we were in school. I'm sure we all have gone through this one. It was known as the wooden horse or something like that. So it's very dangerous to build your 5G platform, 5G network platform on Chinese, on Chinese equipments or hardware as well as software. The reason is, first of all, I want you guys to understand this very important thing, that in China they have this rule that if Chinese government, if it asks any of these companies, right, to give all the access, let's say something goes wrong between UK and China, not today but maybe after 2 years, and just imagine this whole broadband and whole this 5G network is created by this Huawei, then China can simply ask Huawei, Chinese government can order this company to stop this 5G service immediately. And just imagine the damage it can cause to UK's stock market, banking, its economy, right? It will destroy, isn't it? In seconds you can destroy, and telecommunication will be down, so many things. So this is a very dangerous game, right? And we cannot trust China, particularly democratic country. Cannot trust China on this thing. And I'm not sure why Boris Johnson is so late now. Early on as well, there are so many articles written by so many writers in UK in various different newspapers like the Telegraph, and there is also one Observer, or this Guardian newspaper, Independent. All these newspapers, they have talked about this thing, that we need to be very careful with this Huawei 5G gear of China. And cyber warfare is something that China has used against various different countries. Like recently, Australia was attacked by Chinese hackers. China can disrupt and threaten if a nation's 5G is based on Huawei. The thing that I just told you. China's utter disregard for international rules is also quite famous. UNCLOS, what it did with South China Sea, and when this permanent court of arbitration, when it declared its judgment back in 2016, 12th of July 2016, then China said that we reject this whole order, we reject this whole judgment. So China is famous for, or infamous for, disregarding international rules. Few days ago I was talking about this 4 layers. Remember, I explained the BRI, and based on BRI the main goal is to create this Chinese standards by 2035. So once China will create this Chinese standards by 2035, for roughly 100 years it is going to rule the world as far as technological front is concerned. So what USA has done, what UK has done, what Australia has done, India should do the same thing. We need to be very careful with this sort of products that are coming from China, may it be software or may it be hardware, because this Huawei is working very closely with Chinese government. And it is very difficult as well to distinguish a private company and a public company in China. Even if it is a private company, as I told you, that the final authority is the government of China. Okay. Next topic is about Chabahar. Now, dear friends, if this is your first lecture, if this is the first time you are watching my Hindu analysis, then I reckon you guys to check out my yesterday's lecture, because yesterday I have explained the importance of this Chabahar port. It is important for India and Iran's bilateral relationship. It is important for India, Iran, Afghanistan trilateral relationship. It is important for international north-south trade corridor or transport corridor. Right, so of course I'm not going to repeat the same things today, so you can watch yesterday's lecture. Now the thing is, dear friends, we all know that things are not going well between Iran and India, because Iran has said that Iranian government has decided that it is going to drop India from this construction of a railway line between Chabahar port and Zahedan. In fact, Iranian government is so unhappy or so angry with the Indian government that it has said that we are not even going to consult Indian experts about this railway line. India is at present, we can clearly say that India is part of this USA team, and Iran is getting closer and closer towards China. And this is one of the main reasons as well. It's not just our lethargy or our tardiness. The problem with India is that we are very slow. I hate this thing about India, that we are too slow, right? We are like China will, start a project and it will finish it on time. And once we start a project, it never ends. We are always about, this bureaucracy and paperwork, and we are very slow, to be honest, right? And this is our weakness. If we don't sort out this weakness, then we are going to stay where we are forever. Big deal that is on our table today is that China has signed a $400 billion, it's not 400 million, it is $400 billion worth economic and security partnership for 25 years. Security partnership. So, Gwadar Port, built by China. It's important for China-Pakistan economic corridor that passes through our Kashmir region, that is under, at present, the POK, right? That's how it is known at present. So it is passing from this region. We did nothing about it, and here China is going to park its nuclear submarines. Now it is also said that, and God forbid this, but they say that Iran may give or hand over this port, Chabahar port, to China. So we'll be out from here, and then Afghanistan will also slip away from our hands. China is going to inject money as well as a partnership in banking, telecommunications, sports, railways, and other infrastructure projects. And as I told you, military corporation is also going to be a very military cooperation, not corporation. Military cooperation is going to be a very important pillar of this Iran-China relationship. China will buy cheap Iranian oil. We used to get a very good deal, but now China is going to get it for next 25 years, and China will be able to sell so many of its items to a new market, that is Iran. Then we have talked about China-Pakistan economic corridor, and China can afford this sort of deals because it is said that China, Vietnam, there are going to be this handful nations, a handful economies. They are going to stay in blue. When I say blue, I mean to say they are going to be in positive. Growth is going to be in positive, rather than countries like India. We are going to be in red, that is negative. China has already invested in banks in Brazil, and it has invested huge amount of money in various different sectors in various different parts of the world. Then we have one more topic about China. It's about Asia. I have a very interesting initiative I want to discuss with you guys. Now, we all know about LSC issue. Something similar is visible with Vietnam, this Chinese standoff with Vietnam, or China standoff with Vietnam, to be more correct. China standoff with Malaysia. Recently, China has threatened Australia as well. Australia said that there should be a thorough inquiry about this COVID-19 and coronavirus and its inception and how it spread and all these things. And China was not happy with this thing. China has said that we are not going to buy your wines, we are not going to purchase beef from you, we are not going to import barley, and we are not going to send our Chinese students in your country if you talk anything about it. Indian, Japanese, Malaysian, Australian governments, all these governments, like-minded governments, are taking various different steps to spread their eggs in various different baskets. So far, what we have seen that everyone has, or most of us, we have invested everything in China. So most of our products, essential products, non-essential products, were coming from China. But now, this whole COVID-19 and this LSE issue and these other issues that are going on in this South China Sea are eye-openers for this like-minded nations that we should diversify our basket. We should not rely too much on China, because this is like China is controlling every one of us. India, Australia, a few days ago, there was this virtual meeting between Prime Minister Modi and Scott Morrison, and we have decided that we are going to use each other's. We have this agreement between both nations, a new military logistics agreement. So we are going to use their Coco Island, and they can come to our Andaman and Nicobar. So we are going to use each other's facilities. So that's a good thing, a positive thing between two democracies and littoral state of Indian Ocean. India and Japan may have similar agreement. Quadrilateral dialogue is moving ahead. A few days ago, we were talking about Malabar exercise. Remember that it was started between India and USA, then Japan was taken on board. Now Australia is on board. So Quad nations are going to have a proper military exercise in Indian Ocean. ASEAN foreign ministers issued a very strong statement about China's behavior in South China Sea. So that's a very positive sign. And again, I would like to remind all of you that a few days ago we were talking about like India is going to supply BrahMos missile to various different countries. Discussions are at various different levels. Then Russia is providing things to Vietnam. Other nations are getting help from other nations, right? Philippines is getting support from USA. So these nations are also getting up against China. So this is called Milk Tea Alliance. This is a very important thing. I don't think so we have talked about this thing earlier on. So it has never been on our table. So this is Milk Tea Alliance. What Milk Tea Alliance is all about, let me tell you that China is a country. Out of all these countries that you can see on your screen, there are like countries like Australia, then you have Japan, right, Hong Kong, and all these nations, Taiwan, then these nations, right, all these nations basically they consume tea. Tea is very common between all these countries, China as well. In fact, the chai word that we use in Hindi is a Chinese word. Anyway, so all these things means all these nations, they have one thing in common, that is tea. The only difference is that in China, tea is without milk. Other countries, they use milk of various different animals. In India, we use buffalo as well as cow milk, goat milk. In China, they have in Japan, they have a different sort of transparent milk. So it doesn't matter, but they consume milky tea. And China is the only country that consumes tea without milk. So this Milk Tea Alliance is a group of, it's a very informal group. It's not a formal group, but it's an informal group in which you have all these like-minded countries. And one common thing again is that these countries are, bullied by China. So they can come together and they can become a big, you can say, big group that can literally defeat or reign this dragon. If we go back in the history, then we find that crisis and wars, they have created new institutions, like World War II created this United Nations and other institutions. We have seen so many banks and other places, like this Cold War created non-aligned movement and so many things. So this whole episode of coronavirus is no exception. It is also going to create alliances like Milk Tea Alliance. And this is the time that American leadership should take some responsibility. America was a leader, but under Trump's administration, America has been not that much responsible. It is not that confidence-generating America that we used to have. So USA has to make some compromises. It cannot just, of course, I know that some countries, they are not giving money. They are not contributing money when it comes to, this NATO and other security things that are provided by USA. But there are so many countries, they cannot afford that thing as well. But you cannot allow China. You cannot create a vacuum. A place where USA will create vacuum, you will find that China will grab that situation. For example, here you know that Iran has been arch rival of USA since 1979's Iranian Revolution. And since then, right, China and other nations, those nations that are against USA, like Russia, has been a very good friend of Iran, because their common enemy is USA. So now you see that China is using countries like Iran. And Iran, mind you, is a very strong country. It's not a weak nation. It's a very strong nation. Because you can see from last 40 plus years, right, 41 years, it's been 41 years, it's in a situation where USA is its biggest enemy, and then as well this country is going on. So this indicates that they are quite strong. Giving a fight to USA for 41 years is not a sort of joke. So basically, in a nutshell, I would say that we need stronger regional coordination to control China. And USA can take a lead, and we can use this environment that is anti-China environment. This is an opportunity for these nations to shake hands with each other. India should believe in European Union. We can have a very good partnership, right? There are so many common things, like democracy is a common thing. Then we have value, that is, value system, fundamental values, democracy and liberty and fundamental rights, human rights. All these things are quite common between EU and India. Both are aiming to achieve strategic autonomy. Strategic autonomy means you can have, means when I see Iran and India's relation, I don't think so we are strategically autonomous, right? It looks like we are been guided by USA, or we are following what USA is telling us. But truly strategic autonomy means you can have good relationship. When I see Palestine and Israel and India, then I see that we are very autonomous here. We have good relationship with Israel. At the same time, we have good relationship with Palestine. We are independent, right? We don't come into influence. We go for the right thing. So that's what strategic autonomy is all about. So both these parties are aiming for that, diversifying strategic value chains. Now, the example that I gave you about this China, right? Not keeping your eggs in one basket. So that's what EU is trying to achieve. And climate change is a very common thing. So there are so many things on which together these two parties can work. If we go through some important figures, then back in 2018, 67.7 billion euros were invested by EU in India. This makes total 22% of FDI inflows, they arrive from EU. So the EU is a very important investor of our country. At the same time, when we compare our figure with Chinese figure, then we find that EU has invested some $175.3 billion euro in China. So this indicates that we have a very big room for improvement. India could succeed in attracting EU investment, but for that we must address mutual trust deficit. Now, the stagnating free trade agreement negotiations are going on for a very long period of time, and we need to sort this thing out as quickly as possible. European Parliament has said that in its report that EU-India trade can go up to $8 to $8.5 billion. And there are so many things that both nations can, when I say nation, I mean to say this, both parties can learn and gain from each other. EU is going for a Green Deal, and the main aim is that by 2050, this whole continent will be carbon emission neutral. India should, should form a partnership with the EU, and we can do the same thing as well. We can set up a target, and we can learn this. We can have support, economical support, as well as technological transfer from Europe or EU. And one thing that I would like you guys to pay attention to is that, of course, Europe is a very prosperous as well as a very, rich continent. But more than its wealth, European Union is famous for its value system. It is famous for its rule-based or rule-book-based way of working. Right? Rules are very important, values are very important, and that's what the world needs. Together, we can, improve this international platforms like this, WTO. Then you have this, United Nations, right? We can together, these two players can work, and we can create those things, those environments in which we can upgrade WTO, United Nations, etc. I have added a news item here. I want you guys to download the PDF and go through it. You will find the things that we have talked about so far are talked about by Prime Minister as well. Renewable energy, climate change, right? Natural partners. We are natural partners. We can international institutions. We can reform them and respecting universal values, etc. Sustainable development goal, climate change. These are the things. UN Security Council. These are the topics that were discussed between India and EU in yesterday's important summit. UGC needs to revisit its guidelines on final year examination immediately. Now, this article is written by Manish Sisodia. He is, as we all know, Education Minister of Delhi government. And he is right when he says that the core duty of any government in time of natural disaster is to reduce, mitigate, or soften this impact of natural disaster. In other fronts, we find that government has done enough, like providing moratorium and other things. Okay. Not going too much into details of those things as we have discussed it many a times. But the thing is, UGC, when it comes to education, the central government particularly is taking unilateral decision. UGC started with a proposal for an online exam. Students are not happy with this thing because there is a digital divide in our country, and then we have lockdown in various different parts of our country, like in various different cities, for example, Pune. Right, so if you don't have a laptop and if you have to give an exam, then you have to go and visit your friend or someone else. But that is not possible because your city is under lockdown. So how you are going to take your exams? UGC has begun advocating offline or blended online plus offline exam. Another interesting thing that I find here, and I find it very logical here, that final year exams or final year students, they have to, means they are enforced to take exams, but other semesters they are okay, means for them exams are cancelled. So the question is, the whole semester system is about every semester is equal and independent of the other semesters. So this indicates that this government believes that the final semester is the most important one. Others are not that important, isn't it? That's why you are forcing students to take exam. The other thing is, normally these students are used to with learning in classroom, right, offline. Now, due to coronavirus, teaching learning process is off. Universities and colleges are off. Then you take exam because to not just to test the student but your institution as well, right? It is a two-way street. But if teaching learning process is off, then what your examination will prove, right? Why you are taking this exam? Extraordinary circumstances call for extraordinary measures, remember, and world's top institutions, they are relying on internal assessments. That means the teachers will evaluate students throughout performance, throughout the semester, the performance of student. Based on that, he or she will be given marks. So we need to do the same thing here as well. Why can't we do the same thing? So center is taking unilateral decisions without checking the ground reality, and this is a very interesting article. Moving on to next one. This is going to be our last one. National Curriculum Framework for Police Education and Training is needed. Now the thing is, we know these three incidents, right? These two father-son duo were murdered in police station. Encounter of this Vikas Dubey and this man died in America, Minneapolis. So Minneapolis Council has started this discussion. They have drafted a plan to abolish the police system, and they are going to replace it with a Department of Community Safety and Violence. In our country, we don't find this sort of protests against police because still, people are, you find few political parties for name and fame, but real, community protest is not there. And it's not just against the police, it's for policemen as well. It is very important that we need to change this system. IPS officers, they get elite training at National Police Academy, that is in Hyderabad. And lower level officials, and particularly constables, they are trained at different state police academies. To become an IPS officer, you need to crack UPSC, you should be graduate, well-educated person. And when it comes to lower levels, you have just physical agility, running examination and things like that. When it comes to human rights issue, we don't find this thing as part of constable training, right? Human rights, one of the most important thing, we don't find it. And in today's world, we don't need a police force, we need police services. In today's world, we don't need administrators, we need managers, right? We need those people who are citizen friendly, those people who genuinely want to change the system. And I don't say that people don't join police service to change the world. Of course they do, but the system is such that you'll be forced to do so many things that are against your ethics. So either you stay or you leave. There are so many IPS officers, if you go through their biography, then you find that so many dirty games, they keep on going, and they have to do some things that are, you cannot say 100% legal, but there is no way out. We have this Bureau for Police Research and Development. It was established back in 1970, but so far it has not done anything about human rights. There is nothing called in-service training, right? We have various different entry level. You join as a constable or ASI, that is assistant, or PSI, or PI, that is police inspector, or DYSP, or IPS. You have various different levels, right? Based on your education, based on the exam that you have cracked, you will join. And it's a very, traditional, or I would say colonial way of functioning. The sad thing is not just citizens, but even the police officials, particularly the low ranks, right? They work 10 to 16 hours, 7 days a week. They don't get that much house facility. The salary is also not that high. And they are risking their lives and everything, and they are serving us. So hats off to these people, right? If we go through status of policing in India Report 2016, we find that 40% of Police stations, they don't have forensic facility. 20 states, 70 police stations, they don't have any wireless facilities. 214 police stations, they don't have telephone. Lack of human resource or enough people. We have limited people and so much work. Lack of or absence of this division between law and order and investigation department. So it's too much work burden. What do you expect? There is nothing called cooling off like thing, like giving meditation or maybe relaxing, or they don't have any vacations, nothing like that. They have to work, and then you have politicians visiting your district and MPs and MLAs coming here and there, and then you have to create this security thing, and so they are always busy with something. So it's not just that the police are not delivering results. We have to, as a citizens, take a stand for police, that their lives, they have family, they have their own personal life, they need to get and enjoy all those things. So for that we need a sort of a revolution. Then you have some news items on your screen, dear friends. I want you guys to download the PDF and go through it, and that's everything in today's discussion. Thank you very much for watching this video. God bless you all. Jai Hind.